Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to another Blue Bookmark Book Club meeting. Tonight we
Hello.
have True Biz by
True
Sarah
Biz.
Novick. So, welcome. We're excited.
Yeah, jump on and say hi when you're here.
Yeah. Hi, Alicia.
That music always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
The ominous music. Alicia
See,
says
I
cool.
always have it like it's muted. So I totally have forgotten what the music is. Cool music. It's just whatever the free, like the free music that's on Canva.
I love it.
Yeah, not anything special.
Hi,
Hey, Alicia. Hey, Stasha.
I think if I upgraded to the paid version, I would have some better music to pick
More
from.
options.
No, it's like
It's
But
makes it
fine.
more
it's whatever, you know.
Yeah. Hi,
Hey,
Alex, you
Alex.
made it.
Yay. Hey, Cheyenne. Hey,
Now,
Carrie.
Sarah Landis finished. Is she joining us tonight?
Oh, I don't know. She just
don't
texted
know.
something about a tornado warning.
Tornado.
Oh,
warning.
no.
Not sure if she's
Well,
gonna
that's
make
not
it.
good.
I don't know if she has to go bunker down or what.
Yeah.
She
Thanks
just
for
finished.
joining
She
us on a
wanted
Friday
to,
night. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Oh, good. Sarah, we
be
were just
safe.
wondering if you were having to go into shelter for the tornado, or if everything's okay. We're glad you're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like she was planning on it. There she is.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining on a Friday. I know it's a weekend, but shoot, school nights are real hard to get it pulled together.
Yeah. Especially in the spring, like so many activities. And...
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, fingers crossed, Sarah.
Yes. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, I've got some book mail to share.
Ooh, yay.
Woohoo.
Chef's Kiss. Has anybody read this yet? I think it's already came
Susie.
Susie, this is right up your alley. No, it's on sale the 3rd, May 3rd.
Sorry.
So this is actually really interesting because one of the characters is non-binary.
Cool.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's the book you and Alex were talking about.
Yes. So be on the lookout for this one, May 3rd. Okay. And then I've already posted this on Instagram, so I'm super excited about this one.
Ooh.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to read that. I'm so excited. It only comes out in July, right?
Let's see. Yes, July 26th. So I have a couple, a little bit of time to read that one. This one I got today. I did not know it was coming. And you all know my love for them.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm super pumped.
Oh, yeah.
Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White.
Yeah. There was a glare. I was like, what is that?
Oh, sorry. We had Lauren on the channel about a year ago. So,
yay. Cool. Very cool. Exciting.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. You'll have to let us know how that Megan Miranda book is.
I will. Yes. I'm sure it'll be excellent.
I think it comes out at the end of July, right?
Yeah. I requested it on NetGalley, but I think it's still pending.
Yes,
me too.
July
which probably
26th.
means denied.
That means no. Denied. They just haven't done it yet.
That's funny.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that was a fun surprise.
Read it when it comes out.
Yeah, that's so cool that you got physical ones.
Yeah.
I told Glenn that. I really feel like I'm making it in life.
That's
all
awesome.
that work I put. Because, I put a lot of work into it, and it's for what? It's not a job or anything, but now I'm getting, I don't know.
You're getting paid in free books, so it's
Yeah, it is.
The Miranda book, Stasha, I think it's called The Last to Vanish.
Yes, The Last to Vanish. And I really liked, what was the one that we read together, Susie? Where it had the weird
timeline.
timeline.
Missing Girls was the one we went live for. That was so fun.
I loved the plot. Wasn't crazy about the storyline because I had to keep flipping back to try to keep it almost like make notes on what day things happened because it was really confusing. But I'm hoping this is not like that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
I think she was doing something different for that one. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to read
It
that. I
worked.
think I'm all caught up on her backlist now, except
I am
for
not.
I'm not.
except for her YA books, which I'm not going to read because
No, I won't read
I'm
those.
not a YA reader.
Yeah. No thanks.
All right. Well, without further ado, True Biz.
True Biz.
Let's let us know what you rated it.
4 for me.
4 for me
It was
too.
a 4 from me.
Oh, we finally
Wow.
all
Look
got
at
the
us.
same
Ding,
thing.
ding.
First
Yeah.
time I think we've all rated it the same.
I
Yeah.
know that doesn't happen often.
No,
What was it genre wise?
I
What
think
was
it was
it listed
literary
as?
fiction.
Literary
Yeah.
fiction, and I gave it 4 stars.
I know.
Yeah. What did book? Was it contemporary or lit? I didn't even check what book in the
I
month
thought
put
the
it
book
under.
called it literary fiction, but
Literary.
I didn't check
Yeah,
what it
and it
was.
definitely felt a little contemporary too
I was gonna
because
say
there
it felt more
was
contemporary
plot.
for me. Yeah.
You know, it kind of like not exactly like in plot or anything, but it kind of reminded me of The Knockout Queen and how that was like listed as literary fiction. It was also about teens,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with deeper issues going on. I feel like that's
Yeah.
really kind of the only avenue I can really get into literary fiction with. Like,
Right.
for some reason, when it's about teenagers, which I don't typically read about, when it's literary
Yeah.
fiction, it makes it more accessible for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Good. I'm glad you're here, Alex. Yeah, lit or contemporary. I think really the main difference is that like the lit title is like it gives you just like a heads up that there's going to be a theme for you to think deeper about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. That's true.
Use it for contemporary.
Like it's
Yeah.
not just a story for story's sake. It's like making commentary, I think, about something going on in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was super interesting.
It was.
I feel like I learned so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Looks like everybody liked it. We all gave 4s and 5s for it. Except
awesome.
Alex, who decided not to read it. You're still welcome.
It amazes me how much they didn't want children to learn sign language, that it would make them not want to speak. And I think that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole part. I can't remember if it was Austin or Charlie who was talking about it, where it was like, I think it was Charlie who was saying how like they would rather like deprive the children of language, like rather than keep teaching sign language to give them no language, as if that would force them to speak. I mean, it definitely. And someone in the book was like, it almost seems like neglect or child cruelty to like deprive a child of language because they get older and they're
definitely
they're not literate in any language.
Yeah.
That was so interesting and
It was
sad.
interesting. Yeah, because I think there was a point where she mentioned that the doctor was like, you know, you don't want her to learn sign because then she won't, you know, because they had the implant. But I was like, that's crazy. But the doctor was telling her that, like, you know, don't teach her sign. We want her to use her voice and her implant. But it seems they learned it wasn't working, so you think they would, you know, like, all right, we need to try something else, not wait till she was a teenager to finally learn it.
Yeah, Stasha, I was about to say I can kind of relate a little bit with some of that. With Riley was a late talker, but I mean he's verbal now. But lost my train of thought. There we go. But and I remember like saying, okay, use your words.
Yeah.
But he could hear me, though.
Right.
I think it's so hard, especially, I mean, the doctors tell you to do something or what's best for your child. Like
Right.
every parent just wants what's best for their kids, and
Yeah.
the doctor's telling you this is what's best. It's hard to really question that
Right.
sometimes.
You think they're the experts, so
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, we can't do this. It will ruin. We want you to do this. Be able to heal using your implant, and
Mhm.
so we don't want you to fall
Hmm.
Yeah.
back on sign
It kind
language."
of
And
reminds me a little bit
but
like
that,
in the autism world with ABA therapy. It's like such a hot topic because a lot of people are like, well, we don't need that because it makes you fit into a mold whenever they could just be themselves. And so, like, related to the deaf community, they don't need to be fixed. Just let them have their sign language and have their community.
Hmm.
yeah,
So we're
Right.
just constantly trying to fit people into a mold that they don't have to be fit into.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting, the perspective of like deafness as an ethnicity almost, or
Mhm.
like as an ethnic group, that it has all the characteristics of that, having its own language and community. And I just thought that was an interesting, it gave me a fresh perspective on it.
Mhm.
yeah,
And exactly like what you're saying, like people who people don't need to be fixed just because they're different from mainstream
Mhm.
society.
Yeah,
yeah.
and Rachel Daniel, that's in our group, she is deaf, and she has not been able to attend our lives because we don't have closed captioning for
Oh, dang.
live. And I think she has to wait and do the playback after YouTube has, you know,
Run it through there,
run
whatever.
it through the
Yeah.
system. And I don't even know if she has been able to access that. I know, like, on Facebook Live, if you don't open it and you're just like watching it without the volume on, I think as you're live, it might do closed captions.
Okay.
Don't hold me on that. But yeah, it's just like there's so much that's not inclusive.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this
absolutely.
book pointed out definitely things that we wouldn't think of as hearing, but I lost my train of thought now. But I never thought about them like trying to get rid of the deaf community because now they think they can fix it with
Hmm.
the implants and stuff. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah, and that's a
crazy.
hot topic too.
It is, yeah.
And
Right.
I didn't even know it was a hot topic. And I'm pretty sure Sarah Ladeness and I have talked about this before because we both watched Chicago Med, and there was
Mm.
a couple, and the guy was maybe going to get the implant surgery, and she was mad about it, and she was like, I will leave you if you get this,
Hmm. Oh,
because it's
Yeah,
like
interesting.
you're picking a hearing life over your deaf life. And I don't know, I guess um there's just a lot.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
emotional, because
Yeah.
it's like political and emotional. It's like you
Mhm.
feel. I think people feel like they don't feel like they need to be fixed, so it's
Mhm.
like hurtful that someone in the community would see it that way.
right.
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
talks
Amy.
about that on the in the book with Austin and his family because they were deaf.
Mhm.
Austin's, I think, mother and then grandparents were deaf, and then when the baby, they thought it was hearing, and then it wasn't. They wanted to get her the implant because the deaf community was changing so much. So even
Mhm.
in their own circles, they was some back and forth about what was best for them.
Right. So Austin's dad was hearing. Is that
Austin's dad was
Mhm.
correct?
hearing,
But
yes,
Austin's mom was deaf.
Right.
yeah,
Um,
and I think her parents were too.
yes. Because I remember at the beginning of the
Mhm.
book it was saying how like Austin comes from a lineage and he's kind of
Yes.
like
Yes,
has that um almost like an elevated status from coming from like such a long line. Um I don't know, I just thought that scene was so poignant with, like, the dad in the hospital after she gets the tests done, and he's like,
Yeah, she
"She's
passes, and
perfect," and he's like,
yeah,
"Oh, she's perfect because she's hearing?"
Right.
Like, that
yeah, that
scene
was
was
hard
like
for him, and like, no, I just, of course you don't
yeah,
want your child, but it's hard.
yeah. Amy had an interesting comment a little bit back. She said, "I also think it's interesting that in modern times people use baby sign to communicate before kids can vocalize
Mhm.
with their tongue properly before like
Yeah,
they would refuse to even sign for deaf people or for deaf
yeah.
children."
I
Um,
know that's another point
Mhm.
because families who speak two languages, they do it, and the child,
Mhm.
becomes bilingual. So it doesn't make sense that they would think that signing could, impair, like their learning to talk or to hear. Like it's just another way to communicate.
Yeah.
mhm,
I was a teacher's aide in preschool several years ago, and the teacher of the classroom, she used a lot of sign when she was speaking. So, like, if she wanted circle time, she'd be like, "Okay, boys and girls, sit." Want everybody to sit.
Yeah.
I mean, but we didn't have any deaf kids in our class, and all of our children were verbal, but it was still, I guess, I don't know. It was nice. It was cute.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's like natural for people to use
Hmm.
gestures too. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want I don't know, every modality, I guess.
Hmm.
It's interesting too because like, baby sign is so popular now
Yeah.
and there's like um I don't know, like I have a friend whose grandson is having like speech delays and they've been using a lot of sign language with him and like then there's conversations happening, well, is the sign language causing or furthering the speech delay? So I think it's interesting that
Right.
like
Yeah.
conversations like that are happening on the other
Hmm.
like flipped too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, or I
Yeah, I
guess
just saw a
continuing to
post the
happen
other
today,
day
really.
from a speech therapist, and she shared a study that it is not delaying. I wish I would have paid more attention to that, but yeah,
But
that
that it
just
doesn't,
because you're
yeah,
signing with your hand isn't delaying, you know,
right.
at your mouth.
I guess it's not that it's flipped, it's like that the conversation is still that the
Right,
debate
right,
is
right,
still
right, right,
Yes,
right.
happening
definitely.
is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It makes me sad for anybody I've ever come across that I don't know how to do this. Like I don't know how to communicate. And then like I don't want to be offensive, um, but I want to be able to communicate. So like what do you do? What's the polite way to be like if somebody can't hear you, do you really try to just like super over exaggerate the words in your mouth? Is that
mhm,
being a smart aleck? Like
Yeah.
what's the nice way of trying to communicate with somebody?
right. I kind of think like maybe that's contributes to like the deaf community being not like the people being offended, but just
Mm-hmm.
the issue of not being able to communicate, I think probably has led to the deaf community being so kind of like insulated,
Mm-hmm.
there's because of exactly like what you're saying, like how do you um communicate without an
Yeah.
interpreter or lip
Mm-hmm.
reading?
I used to have a man come into the shop and he would get his hair cut, but his wife wrote a note for him. So he would just come in, hand us the note of what he wanted, and then he would just hand over cash and wave bye.
Mhm.
And I mean that
Yeah.
was. But what would we have done had somebody come in to get their hair cut and we had no idea what he wanted?
Cheyenne says she works with a lot of deaf people. They love it when people learn basic signs. If you don't know them, then you can use voice to text. Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Texting. They use that a lot in the book, too. That's a great idea. Sarah
Yeah.
says, I think the best way to ask what they prefer works best for them to communicate. Yeah, totally, Sarah. Like, even when it's uncomfortable, I think, yeah, you're right. Just being open and transparent.
And with
Yep.
the whole lip reading thing, can you imagine how hard COVID has been for lip readers? Because
That's
that
true.
totally takes that away from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. I think you're right. I was interested in the book learning about some of the technology that they described, like the alarm clock, like things that I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah.
Like the bed shaking for the alarm clock and the lights flashing for the fire
Lights
drill
flashing
and
for-
those
yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to learn how they do
Yes,
that.
I
kind of
just
thing.
was watching that almost right before this video, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I do understand that there's the guards and there's all that, but like most people, I would say 99% of people, like say for example, if you were a deaf person and you were going into Dunkin' Donuts, most of the people are probably just wearing a cotton mask. I know all of my masks are just fabric masks.
Right.
Like most
Yeah.
people don't have
Yeah.
the
They would
same
in a
thing that
special
most people don't know
situation.
how to sign. Like
Right.
the mainstream is not being considerate for this whole community of people.
Mm-hmm. And for most communities, you know, with, I mean, other disability communities, right? Like if you think about just like how generally like inaccessible the world is for people who use wheelchairs. And I mean, there's so many, it's like, it
Yeah.
kind of made me start thinking about like other areas of blindness that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of blindness, do you think that the blind community is as proud of their community like the deaf community is? I've never thought about stuff like that.
It's a
Mm.
good question. I
I'm
don't
not sure.
know. I'm not sure. I wonder if like because um because the deaf community uses a language and like language joins people together in a way that's cultural. I wonder if that's
Yeah.
kind of like the distinguishing factor.
Yes. Yeah.
Amy asked a little bit ago, where was it? Oh, if we all liked the class chapters.
Mm.
Oh,
Were
I
they
don't
kind
know
of
if on audio they really did as many of them, but like the chapters where did anybody else? I mean, I listened to some on audio and some on print.
Me too.
How did everybody else consume this book?
I did it 100% audio, and I didn't feel like I was lacking anything, but it didn't show the signs.
I did
I
happen to
guess.
just turn to the page with the dirty signs on them, so I apologize in advance, but it looks
That's funny.
Is this what you're talking about, Amy? Like the class chapters, like where they teach you, or do you mean the
Yeah.
ones where?
Or like the man was
Oh, like
talking.
the ones about like, um,
The
the
history.
French, the history ones, like the Robespierre. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. All of them. Yeah,
So I
like
thought it was really interesting. And I don't understand the science behind this at all. When they were signing, when they were having the conversation, and it had like the white noise. Do you know what
of
I'm
them
talking
actually
about?
Yeah.
signing.
Yes.
I think that was they were telling that someone was signing it too while they were
Oh,
talking.
okay. So there's no like vibrations or anything like that that was supposed to come across. It's just like the rustling.
Yeah. I think that was
Okay.
them telling us that someone was signing it and
So
as they were speaking or weren't speaking.
That's what I
I have
thought too.
sensory issues. and noises really bother me, and that drove me nuts. I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
okay.
so annoying.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting though, because like, you know, before we started reading this book, you know, I know people have different opinions and feelings about quotation marks, bless you.
Thank you.
And like the lack of quotation marks, you know, I have seen people call it lazy to not use quotation marks. I thought in this book, like, it totally makes sense they wouldn't use
I do
quotation marks
too.
if they're signing, because they're not actually saying that. It's being
Right.
translated from sign.
Yes.
And I thought it was clear in the book when they were signing and when they weren't. So,
Yes.
um,
I
I
usually
think
hate that, but in this book, it didn't bother me.
yeah, it never bothers me, but like I understand why it bothers people, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was well used. So I thought it was interesting that they did make an attempt on the audio to like at least notify you in some way that it was being
Yeah.
signed
That this is signing. Yeah.
without it like taking away from
Right. Without their having to put extra words in there.
yeah, like how else would they I don't know how else they would communicate that.
Right. Charlie signed a million times. You could say that over
Yeah.
and over and over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want that. That'll get an old quick.
Yes, I also liked the history classes stuff too.
Yeah, I
I
like
thought
all
that was cool.
I like all the additional lessons we were getting too.
Right, because at the beginning she's like, I'm going to teach deaf history, and then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, we kind of got to take that class too a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was also a really good point about how racism still exists in the deaf community because of
Yes, I never thought about
segregation
that.
and it not being it evolved differently at the different segregated schools. And so a black
Right.
person's sign may be totally different. And so the white signer calling her out and saying that's not the word for that
Right.
is being racist.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
really interesting too.
That was really
Because
interesting.
I never knew things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly
I never thought about
segregation and things were not together, but I just didn't, you know, things that I'm privileged to not have to know about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I love
It's like ways that you didn't realize that racism trickled into like every community.
Everything.
Yes,
Exactly.
everything, yeah.
Oh, Carrie, do you mean like the lack of quotation marks making it accessible? And Carrie said, I saw someone call it inaccessible, and I kind of think like that may have been the point. Maybe like without having quotation marks, making it more difficult.
Yes, I do think that Austin felt bad about that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But it was good that she pointed it out and added that to her story because that was something that we needed to hear about.
Yes.
Definitely.
I
like how we had. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just saying, I like that we got a lot of different. Usually, sometimes that bothers me if we have too many POVs. Like, who's talking now? But I like that we got snippets of Kayla and Austin and Elliot, and it was good, and even Charlie's mom and both. So I liked how it kind of gave you an overall view from hearing and the deaf kids, and so I really liked how she did that.
Yeah, I loved hearing from Charlie's mom at the end because the whole book, it's really easy to like not have empathy for Charlie's parents and kind of just see them as like the villains in Charlie's story.
Yeah.
And hearing her perspective at the end where she's just like, I'm just trying to do what's best for my daughter. It like made it so everybody you could feel empathy for all of the characters.
Right. I totally felt for them.
Me too.
Because as a special needs parent, that's all you're trying. You can say, okay, the deaf community, this isn't a disability. It is, that's not the argument. There's still, the world is now harder for them, however you want to look at it. So they still have a special need that needs to be met.
Yeah.
So that's not to be offensive or anything. It's fact.
Yeah.
So, and like Riley, he has a special need that needs to be met. So, I mean, you're going to do whatever you can to make it easier. And sometimes that's not what's best for them, but you have all of these people who are telling you, okay, ABA therapy is what you need to do for your child so he can fit in when he's older. But then you get in there and it's like dog training sometimes. And maybe when he's 20, that's not what was best for him. But you don't know that because you have all these therapists and doctors telling you that's what you need to do. So, like, I can see where the mom's like, I'm just trying to make this world easier for her.
Yeah.
And I have doctors with medical degrees telling me this is what I need to do. I don't have a medical degree, so I'm going to listen.
Absolutely.
Because, you know,
absolutely. So. They're all just trying to do their best.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's a good reminder, like, I mean, because all you see the whole book is the damage and the injustices and like how Charlie's negatively affected by her mom's choices. And, you know, it's everyone is doing their best. Seeing a lot of love for Austin. I was going to ask like if there's a character that you related the most to, or maybe if not, just like who your favorite character was.
I also thought it was a good point from Austin's mom to make that girls, non-hearing girls, are more at risk. I'm assuming she's talking about sexual assault.
I assume that too.
Because they, you know.
Right. I mean, if you can't hear somebody coming up behind you who's like going to attack you, you're like physically at a disadvantage.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Charlie was your favorite, Cheyenne?
I think Charlie was probably my favorite as well.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Charlie.
I wish February would have had a little bit more of a, I don't know, she was kind of a, I don't know. I didn't dislike her, but she could have had more storyline maybe.
I think, yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like we got to know her less than the other characters. I think his name was Slay, Sarah. Am I right about? Oh, Slash. Yeah, not Slay, Slash.
Yes.
It was close.
Close, yeah. One of those non-names.
Yeah. Oh, Amy says the love triangle for February was unnecessary in her opinion.
Yeah, because the guys weren't even that, like, it was just weird her taking him to the party that he was going to be at, and she had just hooked up with him like a couple of weeks before.
Wait, wasn't she talking? I thought the love triangle with February was like.
Oh, that love triangle. I'm talking about Charlie.
With the
ex-girlfriend
and the new girlfriend.
Right, where it was like.
The one she lived with. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was February.
Was that her wife? Wasn't she married to her?
It was her wife, I think.
Her wife, you're right.
And the other girl was like a friend who I think she had dated like several years ago, like a couple of dates, nothing serious. And then, what was her wife's name? Was it
Wanda? Oh, Melanie.
Melanie?
Mel?
I think it was Mel.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And then she like
and then
freaked
Wanda.
out on her. Yeah, it was Mel.
No.
I just think of Wanda, Marianne, and Wanda.
You want to say Slytherin? Yeah.
Speaking of Slytherin, Mudblood.
Yeah. Slash was an interesting character. I don't know.
I think he had some empathy.
Yeah.
He wasn't
that
a total
whole
jerk.
part about the like French revolutionists, though, like
he was a little wild.
Yeah.
That took me like down because he was like, yeah, sometimes you have to fight for what you want. And then we read that whole chapter about who this guy actually was that he was idolizing. And I was like, yikes, this is not a good dude to be idolizing.
No, definitely not.
But I think that's like so typical. I don't know, it just reminded me so much of like kids I knew in high school, you know, who were all into like punk and anarchy and that kind of stuff without like really understanding, you
knowing,
know,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
implications of what that stuff means. So I thought it was
That's
like a
funny.
really good depiction of a rebellious teen.
Yeah.
So many drugs, Amy. Yeah. Oh,
I didn't
you
even know
did?
what kind of drugs they were taking.
Yeah. So Amy, you must know a lot about, you must have a lot of background knowledge on that. Mm-hmm. A
I
little
guess
over.
they had to have that storyline to so she could have somebody to help her with her riot that fell through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Megan, can you highlight Leslie's
Yes, I was
comment?
just about to do that.
Oh, cool. Went to Reese's book club meeting with the author just before this. She said Wanda was representative of February, still loving her wife, but also needing other types of love in her life. Cool.
Okay.
Well, and I guess
Interesting.
because Wanda was of the community, and so February was not deaf at all, right?
No.
She signed
Parents.
because of her parents.
Yes.
And so Mel was totally hearing and could barely sign. So
Yeah.
maybe Wanda's kind of like that representation of her past and still feeling.
Yeah, I think they had that
Because what's the
connection,
point?
'cause-
Like, yeah, because when in her home life, who is she, other than just because she is used to it, she doesn't have to sign for Mel, but she still wants to feel a part of that life because of her
Mhm.
parents.
Yeah.
Right, because Wanda was deaf and Mel and
100%.
February were both hearing. Am I
Yes.
remembering? Okay.
No, that's
I
right.
know, Sarah. I got confused too so many times. Like I had to go back because I remember I'm like, okay, well, who was the person who stabbed themselves in the ear in the first chapter? Okay, that was
So that
February.
didn't do any
That was
damage,
February.
right?
Right. She
No.
did that because she wanted to be more connected to her parents. I don't know. I liked how it was like, okay, you've got Charlie, who's deaf of hearing parents. You've got February, who's hearing of two deaf parents, and you've got Austin, who's deaf with one of each. Like, I liked how how the
Yeah.
author showed so many different like variations of families.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and I also felt for Elliot too, that poor boy.
That poor boy. Yes.
And because the mom tried to get him healed at a church, right?
Yes. The one that poured or to heal his deafness. That
Yeah.
was terrible.
It makes
That
me
was
sad.
terrible.
I mean, I am deeply religious, but there is a clip that's been going around where this preacher is saying that the autism in your child is just a demon and it's not
Oh
really,
gosh.
I've
it's
seen
just the
that too.
devil, and so you just need to pray it away and he will heal. And I'm like, oh, it's not helpful. That's not how it works.
Yeah, it's
It's not how
toxic.
this works. You
No.
Mhm.
cannot go
Yeah.
up on that stage and heal people because you are not Jesus. That's not how it works.
Right.
It's just hurtful. And,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And not all Christians are that ignorant. And it's just, I hate that has
No,
happened to people.
and I think like whatever religion you are or practice, like love and compassion is universal and like meeting people where
Yes.
they're at, you know, like
Yes.
and how can people be helped and supported, you know, wherever their life circumstances. I think that's like what it's all about.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the not today part that Amy was talking about. Do you guys remember that? At the end when February finds the trio and Slash, how did we all feel when February told Slash not today? I'm trying to remember that part. Do you guys remember?
Uh,
Amy, can
was
you
he talking
remind
about
us
not
here?
turning them in? like calling the cops on them.
Oh, right.
we lose
Oh, we
Sarah.
lost Sarah.
She'll come back.
Yeah, she always does. Right, because like at the end, I almost dropped my computer.
There she is.
There I am. I'm back. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, y'all just went black. Like, okay, I guess I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I missed that part, but yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
She didn't want them to get blamed for the explosion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Even
her
though
kids.
she knew that they were guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, because they stopped it, but then Slash's group carried it out, right?
Yeah, that's
Like
what I thought.
Charlie was gonna do it, but then February stopped them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but left the bombs with the other kids. That's smart.
Right.
Let them take care of it.
Yeah.
Like in general, I thought that February was a good headmistress or whatever her official title was,
She definitely
because
cared about the kids.
yeah, and they trusted her, like their whole True Biz agreement. I thought that was cool and something that more adults like should practice with kids, you know, like allowing them to tell adults what's really going on without having to feel afraid of consequences.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna find out anyways, right? So, most of the
Truth.
time.
I never could hide a single thing from my parents. Never. I got caught with every single thing I ever tried to do.
Oh, same.
My brother could get away with everything. Me, never. But I'm a really bad liar too.
Mm-hmm.
I start laughing.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was like the baby of the family too, so it was like I barely tried to get away with anything, but what I did, I could.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Same. Goody two shoes. Like, I didn't like to be in trouble, so.
Yeah, same. And now I'm such a rule follower. Oh, right.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was great.
Today, the deaf kids never hear her, but she gives Slash permission to do it later. Right, because Slash was hearing. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's so funny, Sarah. I'm going to take a quick look at our questions and see if there's anything that we haven't hit. Oh, I think this is an interesting question. It says, February is hearing, but is headmistress of a deaf school. Did you have any concerns about this? Or I guess thoughts or questions. Why or why not?
I thought it was actually really good because she could see both worlds. Where she grew up with two deaf parents, she knows that world inside and out.
Yeah.
But where she is hearing, she's able to communicate with these parents and reassure them without having to go through a translator. She can be on there, like she can be empathetic with both parents and children.
Yeah, she had a good understanding of both worlds, so I think that made her a good fit for a deaf school.
Yeah, same. I kind of thought of it as like being bilingual. Like if you were the headmistress of a Spanish-English school, you know, one of those languages will be your first language. Like that's just how it is. You're going to have a first language in something.
Yeah.
If she hadn't come from a deaf family, I don't know that she would have been in that position. I agree with that, Amy. I think,
right.
Yeah. Like having so much like cultural knowledge, not just like being fluent in ASL. At first I was wondering why February was in her role, but as we found out more about her background and family, it made sense. Yeah. I agree. When Charlie calls her.
Yeah. Right.
Poor
Wait, you heard
Charlie.
that?
She was really feeling some emotions. Can
Yeah.
you imagine feeling so behind and it's
Yeah.
not
So
your
that's
fault?
frustrating in everything, in her personal, her emotional level, her
Mhm.
how she did well at school. I mean, that affects everything in language.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah.
I could understand her acting out.
I thought Charlie was like probably the best or like most well developed character
Yeah,
in
she's
the
definitely
book.
the fleshed out
She
one.
was, yes.
So I don't know. She just really felt like a real person to me, and I'm sure she's
Yeah.
representative of lots of real children, sadly. But like,
Now,
I don't know. Just hearing her, like, because obviously, you know, I'm a teacher, and I was just picturing like having a student like Charlie in my class, like from Charlie's perspective, here, you know, like trying to imagine what it was like, how everything sounds like gargled, and how the teachers treated her, and you know, not being able to pass any tests because she can't understand any of the content. Like it
Yeah.
just broke my heart.
Definitely. Yeah.
have you ever had
Me
a
too.
deaf student, Susie?
I have not. I've had students who have been hard of hearing and have had hearing aids, but not a student who communicated in sign language. That's so true. Being
Yeah.
a teen is so emotional and difficult anyway.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the point where Charlie is in high school, she should definitely have been able to make all of her own decisions without her mom saying, like, her mom's not even the one who is her primary caregiver anymore. It's her dad.
Yeah.
So why is the mom taking her to her doctor's appointments and making these choices for her? It really should be Charlie and her dad making these decisions.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's her mom. But
It's her mom.
the mom just didn't have. They were just not aligned in what
Yeah.
Charlie wanted and what her mom thought.
Yeah. Those doctor appointments. Yeah, like Cheyenne was talking about the one at the end where Charlie's mom was trying to get her like a new cochlear implant without listening to what Charlie wanted.
Yeah.
And Charlie like explodes at her, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Go off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the last one almost fried my brain. No, thank you. I don't want it.
That's crazy that
It's crazy.
happened.
Yeah.
And I think there was a note at the beginning about like how common it actually is for cochlear implants to not function correctly.
Yeah.
So, do you all remember Alex and I talking in the chat? And I think maybe Sarah knows about this girl. There's this girl on TikTok who it's her and her parents, and she is deaf. And I can't remember if she has an implant, and like sometimes she takes it off and puts it on her fridge so they know that she's not hearing at that moment, so they're not like yelling for her through the house. That sometimes she just needs a hearing break.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
I didn't, Amy, before the book. At the very beginning, before the story starts, it says it's like an excerpt from NBC News from 2014. And it says that a manufacturer of the cochlear implants sold defective implants to young children and adults for years, even after learning that a significant number of the device had failed. So,
oh my gosh,
that's scary.
That's scary.
I mean, I'm sure that's not, the majority or even a large percentage, but I think it's an important story to hear of like the experience of someone who did have it fail.
Because, I guess when you are on the outside looking in and you don't have any experience in the community, when stuff like that comes up, you're like, why would you not want to get an implant if you could hear? But then hearing all of those side effects, you're like, wow, that's a huge, huge risk to take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we trying to force getting electrocuted in your brain when we could just accept you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
exactly.
it kind of goes back to like what you were saying about autism, how it's like we can just accept one another for being different rather than like, you know,
Forcing.
Right.
like
So
forcing fixes.
right.
I
Like
mean,
the whole
especially if
puzzle
it's not
piece thing. Like
consensual.
they don't have to be a puzzle piece to fit in. They can,
Right.
be a different shaped piece.
And I think like
Yeah.
if Charlie had wanted the implant, like that's a whole other conversation if somebody is consenting to it and they
Mhm.
want it. But like the
Yeah.
fact that he didn't is just
Yeah.
like,
Because most of them get it when they're young. They have no choice, no say.
yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting too, like an interesting
Yeah.
debate. I mean, I know obviously parents have what's the word? Like executive decisions over their
Right.
children's medical,
Right.
but
Like power of attorney type deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting when you're talking about something that's like not only going to affect like I mean, I guess because it's medical, but it's also cultural and
Yeah.
um I don't know. It's an interesting overlap.
Because and then sometimes
Definitely.
that still might not even work.
Yeah.
Like you could
Yeah.
go through all of that, basically have brain surgery, have this foreign object in your body, and it's still you still can't pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm really glad we read this book
Mm-hmm.
because I
Me
mean,
too.
it's definitely like was out of our comfort zones, all of us, like definitely something different and like going into it, we're like, should we pick this book? But
Yeah, I'm glad that we
Yeah.
did.
I'm so glad that we did. I feel like we
Yeah.
learned like so much. I
Definitely.
don't
I'm sure
know.
that woman is not on this video, but do y'all remember the lady who got so mad that this book was picked?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't
She
even remember
said
what
she
she was
wasn't gonna
talking
read
about.
it.
Yeah, and she was talking about how someone needs to write a book about my grandson. Do you remember
He
what I'm
had
talking
Yeah.
the
about?
implant. Yeah.
It was because her grandson had had a cochlear implant and had a really successful outcome and was living
Yeah.
in
But she didn't even want to
mainstream.
read about anything other than
Yeah.
like, okay, it wasn't, saying anything about your grandson who had it.
Right.
This is just another part of the deaf
Right.
community that, they had one, didn't work, or they didn't get one and they,
Yeah.
signed, but
And
she
I liked
wanted
hearing
nothing to
about
do
the
with it.
prejudices within the community. Like with
Yeah.
Austin being like, she doesn't need an implant. Like saying that to Charlie, like he's almost offended that somebody would pick one. You know what I
That
mean? Like
Austin was.
that he is superior because I am totally deaf. I do not have an implant. Yada yada
Yeah.
yada.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm better than you because you're trying to become hearing. Like it's just so interesting, all the different aspects that I never thought of.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's like, I don't know. I really enjoy reading perspectives of like, even when it's like it's something painful that I didn't know about before, or like an injustice in society. Like I like reading about that because it
Yeah.
makes me have empathy for people that I didn't know were suffering about something. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think like regardless of your own situation, like that woman, like regardless of like what the experience of her grandson was, like it's good to read and learn about people who didn't have such a successful outcome.
Right. Yeah.
Very
Oh, I didn't know
interesting.
that she Cheyenne said that she picked up a few more of this author's books and like
Now, was the
I
author
didn't-
is the author deaf, or was she a child of deaf parents?
No, I think she's deaf.
Okay. She when I shared her book on Pub Day, she actually messaged me to thank me for including it. She was very
that's so
sweet.
great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like a personal DM, not just like a comment. It was really nice.
Yeah.
It says that she also is an instructor of deaf studies and creative writing.
Does she live in Ohio?
She lives in Philadelphia.
Oh,
And she
okay.
went
So
to
did they just
Columbia.
randomly pick Ohio, or does she have connections there?
I don't know.
I can't
So
remember
she
now
went
what
to
our author's
Columbia
note
and now
said.
lives in Philly.
Because
I need
I'm
to
only
watch.
like 3 hours away from Cincinnati.
Oh, cool.
Not even that, really.
Yeah. My family lives in Hartford, Connecticut, which is where like the first school of the deaf is. So like whenever I go home to visit, I pass that school all the time, and like I kept, I've always been like curious about it, but I don't know, I always like picture that. I think she references that school somewhere in the book.
Yeah, and deaf schools, I think, are a totally other controversial subject where they were really toxic. Some were. Rachel shared something about that where she was so glad that her parents did not send her to a deaf school because of how bad that they were 30 years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and like all the facts that they were saying about like how those like all the different schools right at the beginning, it was like for the deaf and dumb and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
Like
crazy.
that
I
whole
can't believe
history
they
piece.
named a school that.
I know. It was like so horrible. Yeah, the Martha's Vineyard populations, that part was interesting too. Yeah, all the closed schools. Because I think like now, I think deaf schools um are like great centers of deaf community.
Yeah.
I
But
was like, whenever she shared that, I was thinking kind of more along the lines of like Catholic school, like just very strict, um, old English type of kind of like I'm gonna beat it out of you, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, Amy, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Thank
Well,
you.
remember, in Bridgerton, where the Duke of Hastings couldn't speak and his dad thought he was really stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that part was so sad.
So, like, we don't have a deaf school in our community, or I don't even know of one close to us. But our board, we have a teacher who that's her whole job is she goes to different schools and works with any of the children who have AIDS, implants, does nothing. I don't think we have a huge community, but I'm pretty sure there's one at least at each school, and she goes around and works as like a bridge.
Oh,
So
great. Like
maybe
so
more
she
things are
services deaf
becoming.
kids in public
And
school.
she can sign too.
Okay.
And she does all the like hearing screening test for like preschool and stuff. So I guess there are becoming more things to help instead of just throwing them to the wolves.
Yeah, I think now they've kind of made them more inclusive. Because remember when we were young, there was like a special ed class. They're like in real class. Now they have to have an interpreter or an aide, or the school provides for them too. So now they're not just separated from everybody else.
Oh, that's interesting, Cheyenne.
Are there any movies that anybody knows about that could provide some more context? Like, is there any movies about a deaf school in the past with experiences? That might be interesting to watch after reading this book.
I can't think of any.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know any, but I would be
I don't
interested
either.
in seeing one too. I was also thinking about like the socioeconomic like aspect of deaf schools, right? Because like if the deaf schools charge tuition the way any other private school would and like then that's not accessible to everybody the
Right.
same.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Because I would have a feeling that because public schools basically are legally required to provide the least restrictive environment for students with special that are in the special ed program at their school, right? So like sending them to another school would be like the most restricted, right? Like that would be one of the last things that they would do that a public school would pay for. So I'm just I don't know, a question I'll research probably on my own, like if they do scholarships or that kind of thing.
I just googled the Florida school and they're tuition free, or
Oh,
school for
cool.
the deaf here in Florida.
Oh yeah, I just
Amazing.
forgot about Coda that just came out, but I don't really know. I mean, I know it's about the deaf community,
I
but
haven't seen it. But yeah.
specifically, didn't it win like a ton of awards
I
at the
think it won a
Oscars?
couple.
Yeah,
I know he
that's
got
what-
Best Actor because he was like the first deaf actor to win, or whatever, supporting.
There's
or
that I
center
cannot think
role,
of that woman's name, but she plays pretty much every deaf woman in every movie I've ever seen. That
Marley.
the blonde lady.
Is it Marley Matlin?
That might be who it is.
in Coda.
She was
I
in
don't think
Coda.
Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't seen Coda yet.
I haven't seen it either. I just saw the awards.
Mm.
Marley Matlin.
Yeah,
Matlin.
you're right. It was Marley Matlin.
Okay. Sorry. She's the only deaf actress that I know of. So.
Yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff.
She's
Oh
been in a
yeah,
bunch of
she
stuff,
has.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else that we haven't hit on?
I thought it was a really good pick.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
totally taking a
Definitely.
huge left turn next month.
Let's
Yeah.
keep it fun and fluff.
Yeah,
I
we'll lighten
hope
it
know
up next
everybody
month.
is gonna like having a
Lighten it up.
romance for next month.
Yeah, I think it'll just be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like her
books are
other
always-
books, so.
Mm-hmm.
Summer needs to be not heavy.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially somebody's getting ready to have a baby.
Yep. Yeah, I'm like, I can't read any of these heavy books. I skipped for May. I was like, I'm just not in the mindset,
Leslie,
hard
I
enough
got
for me to
denied
just
for book
focus on it.
lovers.
What?
So Leslie said she's reading Book Lovers now. I got denied for it, so I have
awesome.
to wait until it comes out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got denied too. Same.
Yeah,
Is it
same.
Berkeley? Berkeley.
I always deny. Amy asked what we're all reading now.
Deny.
I am reading the new Kate Quinn book, Diamond something. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, the Diamond
And
Eye,
I'm
me too.
listening to Apple's Mayfall. Oh, that's nice.
Cool. Interesting. Sarah, what are you reading?
The Diamond Eye. Blame it on the Brontes, which is terrible.
Oh, that's that
And
book,
I'm,
yeah.
and I'm almost finished with Harry Potter.
Nice.
Which one?
Which one are we reading this month? 4.
Okay,
Four,
I'm
yes.
reading the 6th
I know
one
you.
right now.
You've jumped ahead. It's
I've
your
jumped
schedule,
ahead a lot.
by the way. I was like, it's your schedule, and you're ahead.
Yeah.
Well, the reason
I
why
read at this
is
pace, and then Megan's leaving us in the dust.
the audios are so good, and like it's. I want to listen to them, and I feel like after I finish the 7th, I'm probably going to turn right around and put 1 on hold again.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just really, it's like spending time with a friend,
Yeah.
having him read to me.
That's how I feel about Erin Bennett reading Ellen Hildebrand books. It's like every time I come back to one of her audios, it's like cozy and familiar.
Yes. Oh, so you didn't say what you were reading.
Oh, I am reading, spoiler alert.
I knew that.
I'm doing it on audio. I started Dating You, Hating You, but I just can't get into it right now. So I'm going to start One of Us is Dead soon, I think.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to hear what you think about that.
Yeah. And I'm also doing the audio of a nonfiction book called The Color of Law, which is like a book I got ages ago and never read it. And it's like kind of about like, it's a pretty short read, but it's like pretty academic, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's a little dry, but it's basically about like the different policies and like laws that cause segregation, and basically like it's all about like racist laws. It's interesting, but
interesting.
it's a little dry.
Hmm.
It's very like, yeah, academic, I guess. Stasha, my due date is July 2nd. So I got 9 weeks to go. Can't believe it. Yeah, it's pretty good so far, Sarah. I mean, I'm already like a third through, so I'm just going to finish it. So I'm excited for next month, guys.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty good.
It will be.
All right, everyone. I hope you guys all have a great night. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I know maybe he will come early. We'll see. Oh, thanks, Alicia.
Maybe. Could be a June baby.
I'm a June baby.
Hey, baby.
Yeah, my husband's a June baby. I don't know. We'll see. He's like pretty big, so I won't be surprised if he comes early. The doctor told me he's in the 92nd percentile.
So they told me with Carson, they were like, this baby's going to be huge. He's going to go right into 0 to 3 month clothes, blah, blah, blah. Like, be prepared. So they induced me at 39 weeks. That baby was 7 pounds. He could fit in none of his clothes, and my mom had to go and buy a bunch of newborn clothes while I was in the hospital.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So they don't really know.
They don't know.
They don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, summer birthdays are the best because you can have pool parties.
Yes. I think summer is the best in general. It's my favorite season.
Yeah. And like my birthday is June 9th, so it's like exactly 6 months to Christmas, and then 6 more months it's my birthday. So nothing was too close together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I don't have kids here tonight, so I could hang out all night, but
nice.
I guess it's getting a little late.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Good night, everybody. Thanks so much for joining.
See you next time.
Bye.
See you next time.